Hi, my name is Jacob,
Hello, good evening. My name is Roldan.
and today we're going to talk about the perspectives and operations management developments and research authored by these people, Henk, Sanderish, Matthias, and Albert.
And also this evening, we are going to tackle about the definitions and objectives on operations, logistics, and supply chain management, which I'm really excited about this one, Jacob, because I believe that this topic is very relevant to what's happening in our society right now. So as we all know it, this topic, we can all relate to this one, and we can also like appreciate the advantage that this technological and societal developments have helped us all through these years and months.
Right, and how relevant it is right now. So we're going to talk about the major technological and societal developments that determine our lives to a large extent. And until today, we're being affected by this. Not in the least way, the way we organize our resource needs, and hence we call this one logistics and supply chains. What are the exact definitions of this? We're going to talk about later on. So developments in society and the business world. Let's talk about that. In general, we have five main trends which are driving our societies and the business world in the 21st century. The first one is technological developments, a driving force. For example, the introduction of smartphones in 2007 has shown the Facebook that we're having right now, and recently the COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, we are more into technology. Students are learning online, and we're also having our class online right now. So that I think is also a technological development. But we have a term for that, which will be discussed later on. The next one
And
is
one of these main trends is the societal trends, as for example, the increasing of individualization and customization are the major force in market development. As customers increasingly demand tailored products and services. So every year, like smartphone, for example, the product or the product Apple, they have this tailored products every years, and they have this improved and advanced services that the people and the consumers actually need and ask for.
yeah. What kind of phone do you have right now? Do you have the Apple?
I'm not really into Apple because yeah, as I've said, every year they are developing. Every year they are going into advance, and I don't want my technology to be like outdated. So I prefer not to choose
Oh,
Apple.
you have.
And
Okay, you're having MacBook right now, and I think people right now are actually having MacBook, right, as their device.
I
So
do because I think like the demand of most people is like we must have uh, a very fast and a very like we call
functional.
it random access memory, yeah, a functional that we can use, especially that we're working online. So it's very important to have this kinds of technological advancement.
Yeah, yeah. When we say societal trends as well, like people, if they have this kind of hairstyle, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm on the trend, but some people right now are really into Korean, so they go by that trend. So societal trends. People are into Squid Game nowadays. So if you haven't watched it, then maybe you're out of trend. So that's why this is actually one of the driving force of our society, not only in as a whole, but particularly in the business world. The next one that we have is globalization. It's continuing further and integrating an even larger part of the world into more complex relations, social, financial, political, including the global supply chains that we have right now. So globalization, I think it's quite related to what we have discussed earlier with society and with technology. Like what we have in the Philippines is not only in the Philippines anymore. We have it all over the world. So that is what we mean by globalization. Just like what's happening to Korea right now. the kind of music that they have, it's now globalized. And each country, I think they're trying to globalize everything they have just to be known in the world.
The fourth one is the volatility and the fragility is increasing. As the global recession of 2008 has shown, and as is obvious from the different environmental and climate risks, humanity faces increasing crisis and risk situation. So very recently and very relevant to this day is the what's happening to us right now during the pandemic. We are this has shown and this has proved people how fragile we are when it comes to crisis, when it comes to when we face this uncontrollable pandemic. So basically, this environmental and climate change, climate risk has been very, it has challenged people. And so the volatility and the fragility is increasing as the time goes by. However, technology has helped us to still connect with each other and also like globally and to help each other. What's the best way to overcome this crisis?
Yeah, I think actually the book that is written by these people are actually written before the COVID-19 pandemic, and then I think they failed to put here. They failed to foresee the future that a pandemic is coming, and it's a proof that we are actually fragile. And I think it has developed our society in a way. The next one that we have is sustainability. So it's a pervasive concept that is introducing significant modifications in products and industrial processes. So the people before, they just make a product and then they're thinking that maybe it would last for 1 year or 2 years. But many people right now are into making products that should last for a long time. Like my children should be able to benefit from what I'm having and what I'm buying or investing at this point in time. So these are the 5 major trends that is driving our societies and the business world in the 21st century. And for sure, there's more. There's more to come, but these are the major things we need to know. Let's talk about the disruptors and the impact on supply chain.
So at the beginning, with the proliferation of the internet, the economy as a whole and operations management in particular have seen a variety of dramatic changes. So for example,
we have a book from Friedman in 2005. Actually, this is a very famous book, and I think this is also present in the textbooks that we have before. It is entitled "The World is Flat: A Brief History of the 21st Century." So Friedman is trying to narrate what is happening during that time in 2005, and maybe foreseeing the future as well. How 10 flatteners have actually leveled the playing field from companies and competitors across the globe. Then even if you are anywhere in the world, we're now like in the same level. So the first one that we have in the past 10 years, the pace of change has only accelerated, which is good. And then again, even if we are in a pandemic, we are still accelerating with the use of social media, online things right now. Companies that are household names and with market capitalization of $1 billion and more US dollars did not exist until a few years ago. We have, for example, Facebook with a market capitalization of $523 billion, only founded in 2004. And this has just been made by a college dropout, right?
And one of the most popular application today is the Netflix, which was founded in 1987, but as a DVD sales and rental company. Now, this application, Netflix, has a very different, an entirely different business model. So we will talk about this one later on. What are these applications and what they do about our society up to this day?
Yeah. All right. Let's continue talking about the disruptors. So with a new business model that we have, companies can become dominant players in their industry segments in no time. Let's consider the following. Uber is the world's largest taxi company, but we also have Grab here in Vietnam. We have Gojek,
Yeah,
okay,
go.
but they own no cars, right? So it's a very, impressive system.
And in the Philippines, they have Food Panda, but like they don't sell like their own restaurant. They don't have their own restaurant, you know. So,
Exactly.
we have also Netflix, that is the world's largest movie house, but they own no theaters. So
Apple and Google are the largest software vendors, yet they do not develop their own applications or apps.
now Alibaba is the world's largest retailer, but carries no inventory.
I think this is quite obsolete. I think we have right now, what we have right now, Shopee,
Lazada.
Lazada. I think Lazada is becoming number one. I think so. I don't know in the US, but at least here in Southeast Asia, that's what we know. Okay. Skype is one of the largest phone companies, but has no physical infrastructure.
And Facebook is the world's largest content provider, but develops no content on its own. But still, one of, I think, the number one application that people use all over the globe.
Exactly. So with this kind of business model, we could say that the world is becoming flat indeed. And that has been mentioned by Friedman just in 2005. And what year are we right now? 2021. A lot of things changed, and it is indeed true. Let's talk about the digitization in logistics and supply chain operations, because we are here for our educational logistics and supply chain class. So the digital transformation has revolutionized both businesses and personal life in recent decades. So we are using here the word revolutionize, right?
The success of companies like Amazon, Google, and Alibaba is in the first place due to their ability to process and analyze large amounts of data, to use the result of such analysis for the development of personalized services. So basically, these companies, these technological companies are really giving what the consumer, what are the people really wanted right now, and it is personalized services. So who doesn't want to have their own personal service, have their own can accommodate each of the people's each of the person's need.
Yeah. I think the big thing that they did is to actually allow us to store certain documents and files. Like our whole library is already online and everybody could access it. So what are the effects of the digitization of logistics and supply chain operations? The first one that we have is supply chain transparency, because anyway, right now we would know what's happening to our supply chain and safety. And of course, everything will be secured as well. Well, not everything, there are some security issues, but we are now, transparent to the kind of security that we have, at least right now. Well, that depends to how do you moderate or regulate the security of your data.
Second is the supply chains control towers and the physical internet.
Right. So what is physical internet? It represents a vision of a common infrastructure used by logistics service providers, which entirely takes over responsibility from shippers and customers for smooth and seamlessly integrated handling of transport orders. So they call it physical internet. They're trying to make it as categorized as possible. Next is
You have the e-commerce and the last mile delivery.
we have Industry 4.0 or the smart industry. So the term Industry 4.0 or smart industry.
This indicates the revolutionary change that digitalization, and in particular, the introduction of the cyber physical system, has brought about in almost all aspects in the industrial manufacturing and services industry.
Yeah, so we could really say that there's a revolution happening here. We also have the additive manufacturing.
Have Internet of Things.
What does it mean, Mr. Dan?
It is used to denote devices that communicate with each other without necessary human interference and subsequently activate automatic devices to perform follow-up actions. For example, we have robots in a warehouse to pick replenishment items for transport to desired location. So basically, Internet of Things is like it's a technological advancement which we do well, we just don't hope to this to happen, but there's no human interference at all. Like everything should be is done with the technology, with done with the robotics advancement. So
Actually,
many
included here is RFID. We're in actually not necessarily without human interference, but it's very easy for us. Like we just have to ask Siri, for example, like, "Hey Siri, please tell me what should I do today? What are in the list of what I'm gonna do today?" Like, "Hey Siri, please alarm at 5:45," something like that. Oh my god, my Siri is
exactly
tuning on.
like
So it's
Internet of
basically
Things
happening.
like make our lives easier and of course faster than
Yeah. Okay, and we have artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotics.
robotics and driverless vehicles, just like Tesla, which
Yeah.
is very trending right now.
Okay, so right now we're basically enumerating to you the advancement in technology. We have also the cloud computing, the way we store our things on cloud, the virtual reality, shared economy, among many others. Now, we proceed to the definitions and objectives because for today, we will be learning more about logistics, operations, and supply chain management. So let's talk about the definitions. And let's start first with
The history. So for at the beginning, from the first societies and economies in Egypt, Mesopotamia or the Persia, China, and the Central America onwards, the well-being of mankind depended on the availability to transport and store goods effectively and efficiently. Even like with no technology long time ago, the mankind is always depending on the transport, like the import and the export of goods among countries. So in that case, that is how our society moves forward. That is how our society grow and work as its own.
Yeah, I agree. That's why transportation, it's actually part of logistics. It's actually the main content of what we're talking about today. So logistics already started long time ago. And I think if it's a problem, I think some societies are still having a problem about that. That's why the making of the roads, the build program of the government of the Philippines is really helpful to all of us so that the products that they have in the hinterlands could be successfully transported easily as well to the communities, which gives them business.
Yeah.
So in Roman times, let's go back to history, the establishment of the road system and the post system based on this, as well as the Roman ship fleet, enabled their rulers to build one of the first global empires.
So in the first acknowledged economics book by the philosopher Adam Smith in 1776, logistics and transportation was named as an important enabler.
All right, 1776, Mr. Dan. So I think that's like 4 centuries ago, right? So logistics and finally has been termed. We also have in his Wealth of Nations, he describes how long distance transport enables market extensions and therefore helps to bear the full fruit of the principle of division of labor.
So as by means of water carriage, a more extensive market is open to every sort of industry than what land carriage alone can afford it. So it is upon the sea coast and along banks of
Navigable rivers.
navigable rivers, and that industry of every kind naturally begins to subdivide and improve itself. That's why we have this big ship, we call it cargo, which is very helpful for imports and exports of product throughout the globe.
All right. We also have the word here, water carriage. It's not a widely used term right now because, again, this was written in 1776 by Adam Smith. So if we pronounce some of the words here, it's understandable. Okay. Now let's go to the definitions. The first one, I think this is a recurring term that we will be discussing all throughout our class. A supply chain encompasses all activities, or what we call it as operations in our class, needed to convert raw materials into final products, from sourcing through component manufacturing and final assembly to distribution to end markets, and including all necessary materials, handling, and storage. In short, logistic operations. Okay, so in our class, we don't call our activities as activities, we call it operations.
We have also logistics. This refers to the transportation and the storage of materials, parts, and products in the supply chains. And this includes inbound and outbound processes to and from warehouses, as well as internal and external materials handling and transport operation. So if you are a fan, or if you are really into online, like online shopping, you really know what this term is.
Yeah. Okay, the next one that we have to define is supply chain management. So it encompasses the planning and management of all supply chain operations. Importantly, it also includes the coordination and collaboration with channel partners, which can be suppliers, intermediaries, third-party service providers, and finally, it reaches us, the customers. Okay. The next one that we have to, okay. In essence, supply chain management integrates supply and demand management within and across the companies. The next one is
logistic management. Is that part of supply chain management that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet consumers' requirements.
Okay, the next one that we have is this one. So basically, we talk about logistics management and the chain management. So this is what we call the hierarchy of supply chains, logistics, and transportation. So transport operations is part of logistic management, and logistic management is part of global supply chain management. After learning the keywords or the definitions, now let's take a look at the key aspects of supply chains and logistics. The first one that we have is availability of materials, products, and information. This is the basic notion from which the term supply chain stems. Its primary objective is to ensure the timely availability of the right quantities of raw materials, parts, and products together with all information needed for further processing at their destined locations. So that's a common key aspect. And this is what we call the supply chain operations reference model. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the supplier, your company, customer, and customer's customer, right? Because some people are actually, they're actually connected. And then after you sell it, and then they're going to sell your product once again, right? Because it's all about money, and people are actually earning. So it is important to realize that usually supply chains encompass various companies. For each company, its customer may be the next stakeholder in the supply chain. So a good example for this would be Shopee, for example. In Shopee, you are not actually buying from Shopee. You're actually buying from a particular store, right? So there is now an intermediary. So your next customer has become the next shipper or a company, for example, that would be selling to other people.
So coordination of the goods flow throughout the supply chain hence requires the synchronization of activities that are controlled by different stakeholders, each with their own objectives. This makes overall supply chain synchronization a formidable task.
Right. So the process is very important as well. And as the time goes by, it becomes more complicated, right? Before we just go to a store and we buy there. And right now, the online aspect has been used. The next one that we have is
Cost efficiency. For a long time, cost efficiency has been the dominant measure of performance of production and logistic processes, meaning that a maximum output should be achieved with minimal materials and manpower utilization.
okay. Once again, we're actually learning here that the educational aspect of supply chains and logistics. And every time, I think if you go to the Department of Education, to any universities, they're always talking about cost efficiency. And there are issues about that because some of our government agencies are actually spending too much on things that could actually be achieved if we spend this little amount. So cost efficiency is a term that everybody should know right now in the business world because we want to make use of our money properly. All right. And then we have customer orientation. From the 60s of the preceding century onwards, consumer markets started to change. So how about your customer orientation right now in Vietnam, Mr. Roldan? Like, what can you say about the changes that you have from the orientation before in the Philippines?
Well, basically now, I think if I'm going to talk about businesses, it's like now we have like consumers are rapidly growing. And, for example, with online shopping, let's say Shopee, before if we just go to a certain store, so it's like the seller, the store, and also the customer, the consumer. So it's like two people like having this
Interaction, right?
interaction together. But now with online shopping, so we have this manufacturer and their customers also are also the deliverer, the deliveries. So it's like the logistics. So there are many people involved, and in this case the customer orientation are like growing, and there are more people who are affected by this one positively, which is very good nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we're going to go to we have this at school, we have this online class. Our also, of course, our consumer are also our students. So basically we are connecting them online, especially now we are at the pandemic. So it was really affect consumers, really affect the market and the change.
Let me try to narrate the customer orientation that I have observed from you as a friend. Like maybe before in the Philippines, you just stay at home, and if you're hungry, you just hungry overnight. But right now, we're now oriented that we can actually buy even if we're at home. So our customer orientation has changed, most especially during this pandemic time, that everything is actually achievable. Everything can be bought online. No need to go to the stores.
Yeah, everything is accessible.
No longer products were accepted as they were. Customers demanded more product variety, and companies started to realize that they must distinguish themselves from competitors by responding to these demands. That if a particular store, for example, already has a Facebook page, then this store needs to have their own, right? And then we have
Speed, which is the classical way to achieve timely delivery, was to keep sufficient anticipation stocks at a large number of locations, certainly for those multinationals that were selling all over the globe. So within a customer-dominated market, timeliness of delivery quickly became a key requisite in supply chain management.
Right. I think I've watched a particular show about. Have you watched? I forgot the name. A particular show wherein someone has been stuck in an island and he's actually working for a particular company about the logistics. FedEx, I remember. The company is FedEx, and then they actually have a rule in their delivery that if you have a product like this, and then this is your geography, you have to deliver the product in 24 hours. So the fast it is, the better. And it's one of the key aspects that we need to learn in logistics. And then we have environmental sustainability, that these products should be for the environment and should be concerned of what's happening in the environment. We are very thankful that some of the companies right now are not using a lot of plastics anymore, meaning say they are aware of its effects to the society and social aspects.
So these are the relations to other scientific disciplines. So in order for us to fully understand the impact of operation, logistic and supply chain management, a discussion of relations with other science fields and objective is in place. Without claiming to be complete, we mention the following.
So we have the technology and engineering. So this is another scientific discipline. Many technological advancements in transport technology, but also in manufacturing, pave the road for more efficient and effective supply chains with less impact on the environment. I think this has been explained many times.
We have also the sociology. Since 2007, more than half of the world's population is living in urbanized areas. In Western countries, city inhabitants constitute already more than 70% of their total population, and the numbers are still increasing.
Right.
And
So
imagine 2007.
Right, and we can now actually say that when we talk about supply chain, it's actually interrelated to other kinds of discipline. Sociology is in the art sciences. The next one that we have is law and politics. Global logistics is by definition border crossing logistics, which requires intrusive inspection by, for example, Food and Drug Administration authorities, as well as confirmation to customs and tax regulations. So if you're going to build a business, you need to have a lawyer to take care of those matters.
We have also the informatics and artificial intelligence, a prerequisite to any modern manufacturing and supply chain planning system, is the ability to process large amounts of data.
Right. And biology and environmental sciences. The living environment of our planet is a major concern also to operations, logistics, and supply chain management. Okay, those are the scientific fields. And these are our references. Okay, and I think that's all for today. Thank you so much. Once again, this is Ian Jacob.
Daghang salamat. This is Roldan. And thank you so much for listening. That's it. I hope you learned something, and we will see you again next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.